if I bounce down into the breakfast buffet, even on 4 hours sleep, and I'm like, the sun's shining, the birds are singing, it's a wonderful day. He's like, all right, then that means it's a 5 out of 10 at least.
Wow.
Hello and welcome to the Abroad in Japan podcast, probably the best way of learning about life in Japan without actually being in Japan. I'm your host, Chris Broad, and we're joined as always by England's top Japan enthusiast, Mr. Pete Dawson himself. Pete, how the devil are you doing? What's going on?
I'm good, Christopher. I hear that you are fresh from a delicious 5-hour Fukuoka to Tokyo train journey on very little sleep as well. You seem to be abusing your body at the moment, and I'm very worried about you.
Oh, don't worry about it. It's been doing that for 12 years. That's just the nature of the job. Yeah, we put out a video last night, and Dave and Marcus did a great job editing it. I had to do a few things to it, and then I had to upload it, and I went to bed at like 4 a.m. And then at 8 a.m. I had to get up and catch a bullet train from Fukuoka, where I was filming, all the way back here to Tokyo. So at least I got to sort of nap a little bit on the train, and that was my bed.
We're talking about the 12 unspoken rules not to break in Japan video that I watched most of, because, the time zones didn't work for me last night to get it all in my eyes, because you dropped it like 11 hours ago. I would say that, so you were filming the video, you were filming parts of the video, and then it went straight up, or you just had other business in Fukuoka?
We had other business in Fukuoka.
Other business in Fukuoka, yet to be revealed. I mean, and so you managed to get a few hours shut-eye on the Shinkansen from Fukuoka to Tokyo. I mean, I will say, we'll probably have to explain to a lot of Americans what a train is. It's like a dragon on rails. But those who are on the east or west coast. But there is something lovely about how recliney the Shinkansen trains are, and how much room you've got, and how, geared towards the humans who actually have paid money to be on the train, and how cheap they are compared to everywhere else. I mean, it's something else as a train experience to just get a couple of hours shut-eye. You really, really can on a Shinkansen bullet train.
I tried. I think I must have slept 30 minutes, but it was more just like dozing off. And I felt really bad. I did recline my chair as far back as it can go, which I don't normally do, because in Japan, I think people are a bit sort of uncomfortable, this idea of slamming their chair back and going the whole way. So most people put their chair back like 70% of the way.
Not me, baby. Put me in your video. Put me in your 12 things not to do in Japan, because I recline all the way. What you doing back there? Laptop? Eating? Don't care. Smash. It's a Ponzi scheme, baby. I'm going to do it. You could do it. The man behind you could do it. But the guy at the back, he's the one who gets screwed. Except he doesn't, except they don't. Well, the domino effect on a flight, obviously the last row can never recline as far as it needs to, and that's why people get upset, kind of. But like on a Shinkansen train, there's always a little cargo bit behind the last row, so the last row can recline. They do think about you. Yeah,
in this case, I felt bad because I got out of my seat and looked behind me, and there was like an elderly couple sandwiched between my chair and their lunch, and it looked like there wasn't much room, and I was like, oh no, what have I done? Dear. I didn't move my seat there. I want to sleep, so I didn't.
No,
I didn't feel so guilty. I was like, I must move my seat.
They can recline if they want to. If they're choosing not to recline, then that's their business, isn't it?
That's right. That's how it works. But no, it was a fruitful trip. We're working on a video about. Last year we did a video called 14 Days in Japan. It's actually the most watched video of last year. It's kind of like an itinerary for things to do. We covered the Golden Route, your Kyotos, your fucking Tokyos, your Osakas.
You fucking Tokyo.
You fucking Tokyo.
You fucking
What's
asshole.
happened to me today? When I
Come
run
to
on 4
fucking
hours
Tokyo,
sleep.
you see a big fucking hill. Hill Fuji, I calls it.
I did give you a Fuji today, actually, on the train. It was pretty good on the train ride back.
It was good, yeah.
Nice
very,
view.
very surprised. Little Fuji, giving you a little wink for once.
It was a bang.
Showing its ankles at you. Lovely.
Yeah. But, so this year we're doing like a sequel to that video, and it's called 21 Days. Right. And it's about, what to do on your second trip to Japan, or if you come here for 3 weeks instead of 2. And it's been fun. Natsuki and I filmed all around West Japan, bits of Kyushu, a few places I'd never been before. And it was a fun trip. And we also filmed the sketches that appear in the 12 Unspoken Rules video. We filmed that whilst travelling around. Rules like don't wear sunglasses in a temple. Don't douse your rice in soy sauce. Don't... what was the other one? don't eat and drink while walking. That favourite.
That's
Classic.
the one. Envelopes. A lot of envelope rules, which which I guess as a tourist you're probably not necessarily, unless you're being really fancy with a hotel proprietor, giving them gifts and stuff. Like I think it's the whole envelope rules. It's worth watching Chris's video entitled 12 Unspoken Rules Not to Break in Japan. And the envelope rules are absolutely it boiled my piss. It really did. Stop, guys.
Oh,
an envelope is an envelope. If you want to write something different on the envelope, they don't have to have different envelopes. It's not deal or no deal. Get with it.
I still remember clear as day that envelope incident. And this is the envelope where, you've got one. There's like 4 different envelopes in convenience stores, right? One for if you're married, one for like if your family's dead, one for if your family died a few years ago and you want to celebrate that. And it's just endless. And I picked the envelope to commiserate the dead whilst giving some money to a colleague of mine when I was a teacher. And I think she was quite a spiritual, superstitious person as well, which made the situation all the worse. And I remember I owed her some money. It was about $150. And in Japan, when you give money to people, you put it in like an envelope and hand it over. Yeah. And I picked that envelope out because I was like, oh, it looks black. It's got a cool like, black strip on it. Oh, it's lovely. I'll get that one. She'll really appreciate that. And then I handed it over to her, and she just wouldn't accept it. She was like, oh my God, Daddy Quarter. And I was like, just have your money. There's 200 quid in there. That's a good night out. And she just wouldn't take it.
Make it rain out of the envelope. Your death envelope.
Well, that would have been less offensive, wouldn't it? But yeah, she was like, this is the envelope for when your family and friends are dead. And I was like, oh shit, that's not good. And there was that sense of foreboding. It's
annoying because like in my off license, I couldn't buy, if I need an envelope, I can't buy one. I've got to wait till like the proper shops open. I can buy at this point in time. It's 6:30 a.m. I can buy vapes, energy drinks, and electrical fuses. They're the 3 things that my off license sell.
The 3 things you need in life, isn't it?
Yeah,
and the envelope of death, and you'll need the fucking envelope of death if you drink Red Bull and vape all day. Yeah, dear oh dear. But all in all, a good trip, and the video's doing well. So I get this like. You kind of know from what my day is going to look like the day after a video comes out, if it's like highly ranked or low ranked. Like people always joke about, like Paul, who my cameraman always work with. He knows, he can sort of work out by my mood how well the video's doing. I'll come down like...
He pops in the back end and goes, Chris is going to be angry. Chris is going to be...
He knows.
55% angry.
If I bounce down into the breakfast buffet... Even on 4 hours sleep. And I'm like, the sun's shining, the birds are singing, it's a wonderful day. He's like, all right, then, that means it's a 5 out of 10 at least.
He's had a good morning then on the old YouTubes.
And if I come down, I'm like,
for a shoot at.
He's from Essex, and he's got the most Essex voice. Right. And if I come down, I'm like, oh, fucking rubbish, I hate my life, why do I bother with YouTube? He's like, oh dear.
I better stay away from Chris, he's had a fucking nightmare. Oh my
Poor old
God.
Paul.
Poor old Paul. He gets the brunt of everything. God damn it.
We do have a very similar accent though. He has the same accent I had before I came to Japan and before I made myself sound more posh, so people can understand me here.
when I went up to the northeast for a week, I came back down and there was a few divants in there. And Gans that weren't there before, reclaiming the accent that I left when I joined the voiceover community.
Keep that filthy accent up north where it belongs. Don't bring that to the South UK. We got a story this week from Sammy, who says, "Hello, Chris and Pete. I'm an Australian working as an ALT, and for my first 2 years, I lived in Cocker. That's not how you pronounce it. It's Cocker." But I've never heard of this. This is not a real place. Cocker.
All right, well, Cocker, what's going on? No, you're back.
I lived in Cocker, a lovely city that's home to the ninjas and the Shigaraki Yaki pottery. Ooh, very nice. I'm guessing it's somewhere near Wakayama, Shiga, that area. I completed my evening food shop and was sitting in my car in a tired daze. I was about to drive home when somebody suddenly knocked on my window. Knock, knock. Beside my car was an older man, now waving at me to open my door. Had I done something wrong, I wondered? I meekly opened my door and greeted the slightly cranky-looking man with a timid good evening. He asked flatly, "Do you want some persimmons?" My God.
Do you want some? Do you want some?
You're so fucking persimmons, love. Before waiting for my reply, the man thrust a giant bag of persimmons my way. I was bewildered, and I took the bag with a confused and mumbled thank you. Instinctively, I checked the contents, and indeed the bag was full of persimmons and micans, oranges. When I looked back upon the man, he had disappeared into the dark, crowded car park, like a ghost in the wind.
Persimmon slinger.
Persimmon man. There were so many persimmons in that bag, my God, that even after giving some to my friends, there was still too many for me to possibly eat by myself. Not wanting to waste any, I made jam for the first time in my life. I was very thankful to receive fruit from a very kind stranger, especially considering fruit can be expensive in Japan. Love the podcast. Keep up the great work, Sammy. He met Jesus, the Jesus of Japan, Persimmon Man. Jesus gave the world bread and fish and wine. Persimmon Man gave the world an unlimited supply of persimmons. And to be fair, this is quite a common thing.
Very, very tannin heavy. Because like persimmons are famously, you have to work very hard to keep them over the winter. It's called the hoshigaki, the act of keeping persimmons over the winter, because they're obviously very expensive fruit, and if you've grown them yourself, like they're pretty
How do you
valuable.
know that? How do you know that word?
I'm a big persimmon guy. I'm a big persimmon guy. You know me. I might have done some research. Well, you don't know. I could have been up at 5 o'clock looking up persimmons. Either way, persimmons are delicious. But you do have to, if you've got to keep them over the winter, you do have to sit there and massage them. like those A5 Wagyu cows, you've got to massage them to rotate the tannins, I think.
A5 persimmons.
Yeah, and they dry out, and they're absolutely delicious. So, yeah. Have you never had a dried persimmon? Beautiful. Beautiful. Oshigaki, mate. Beautiful.
They are good. I mean, they're everywhere, and like, if you live in the countryside, you do get gifted free fruit, like quite often, right? Like I got free cherries in Yamagata. I did get free persimmons fairly regularly. That's good. It's good living in the countryside. In Tokyo, you get nothing.
That's a lovely experience. Could you not how do you kind of make it clear that you're open for fruit giftage? You just stand outside your car going, I'm so hungry, I need something fruity and wet.
Just walk down the street rubbing your stomach and looking in a nonchalant manner.
I've had dinner, but I just need something a little sweet for my belly.
Well, maybe it ties into this week's news story. Maybe the reason Japanese people live so long is the persimmons, amongst other reasons.
Maybe,
yeah. So this week's story involves Japanese people who won't die, who aren't going to have the black envelope because they live forever. Japan does famously have amongst the most centenarians of any country on Earth, and one of the longest life expectancies on the planet, particularly in Okinawa, which they call like a blue zone, don't they? A blue zone is an area where people live a long time.
Didn't they sort of investigate a lot of these kind of cases where people had lived a long time, but it was actually just massive amounts of birth fraud? Like, it was going, what are these guys eating? It's like when they went over and they checked, they just, I think they probably just wanted to work earlier or something, so they pretended that they were older than they were on their birth certificate earlier in life, and obviously that's a sort of lie, knowing Japanese administration, especially in post-war times as well, where I imagine a lot of records got disappeared. I imagine the birth rate, the death rate will increase, the age rate will increase in the next century because we won't have a lot of, I don't know, bombed buildings, for example, fingers crossed, I don't know. Anyway.
I mean, on the subject of like old age, do you know how old the oldest person in recorded history was lived to? Like what the age is, what the record is?
Isn't it like something mad, like 119 or something? Isn't it something absolutely wild? And it probably would have been Japanese as well.
It is 122.
Jesus. From about 102, you're like, fucking kill me. I've seen too much. I didn't need a third Avengers film. God.
But this is a kind of age that is contested a little bit. I've got to butcher her name. It's Jean Calment. Right. She's from France. She lived to 122, passed away.
Complete lie. The way they absolute bollocks, madam.
But she was certainly old when she died. Of that we know. Right. Of that we can be certain. However, 122 years, 164 days. She was born 1875 and passed away 1997. And to some extent, like I remember reading about it, and internationally there is some sort of skepticism about her claim. Whereas France is like, no, she definitely died 122. We want the world's oldest person. Looks good for us. So they maintain that she definitely was 122. But there's a lot of like the second oldest, I think, confirmed age is about 118. Last time I looked.
Right.
I know this because I was researching doing a short film on somebody who was living like to 120. And they were going to give away their secrets to long life to the highest bidder. And it's an idea I still want to do at some point, maybe. But anyway, and she like smoked, she ate chocolate, didn't leave a healthy life. And she struck up a deal in her 60s, I believe, where she would basically sell her house or something, or something. And the person who she sold it to would keep the rights to it until she died or something or other. And the guy that bought the house off her, she could live in it until she passed away. And I think there was this assumption that, she'll be gone after 20 years. And she was still there for like another lifetime, another 60 years.
He's trying to evict her.
She's like retired. Well, she retired for 6 decades, if this is indeed accurate. But
women live a long time, man. My nan did 96, and she only left us then because she moved into a home, and these things kind of like turn around quite quickly. But an astonishing achievement. But you do sort of like I know, like with really older people, you don't want to poke them too much, but you would start asking them about what was the crash of '29 like? Come on. What was the First World War like? And they're like, I don't remember. I was smoking cigarettes back then.
When I was back in the UK, lies. When I was back in the UK over summer, I met my nan. She's 98 and still functioning pretty normally. Her head's all there.
Eating cheese and chocolate.
Cheese and chocolate. I don't know what the secret to her life is. Just watching lots of TV and relaxing, I think. But
my son was a robot war creator.
He fought in the robot wars.
He fought in the robot wars. I lost him to the robot wars.
But going back to Japan being, one of the oldest nations on Earth in terms of population, more than 95,000 people in Japan at the moment are over 100 years old, and most of them are women. Pete, fill us in on this pretty impressive achievement.
Yeah, I mean, the number of people in Japan, as you say, aged 100 or older has hit a record high of more than 95,000 people. Almost 90% of them women, because men are stupid and they do stupid stuff. As of September 1st, Japan had 95,000 centenarians, with 83,000 of them women and 11,000 men, roughly, the health ministry said in a statement. Over 65s, they've hit a record high as well of 36.25 million, accounting for roughly 30% of Japan's population. And Japan is, of course, currently home to the world's oldest living person, Tomiko Itoka, who was born in May 1908 and is 116 years old. It's interesting because that was my granddad's when he was born, 1908. And I was going, that's not old. I was like, yeah, your granddad died in the 80s, Pete. He met you and then instantly died. That's how bad you are. But yeah, that is 100. Because I think we are starting to get to the point where the way that kind of records were kept and the way that we can kind of age people with chemicals and things, I presume, cutting their arm off and counting the rings, so to speak, we're getting to the point where these are starting to become very verifiable. Which is quite exciting. I mean, it's a nightmare for Japan because they've obviously got a population crisis, expanding elderly population, massive medical and welfare costs, and a shrinking labour force to pay for it. So the government, I think every week there's a new story in where the Japanese government are trying to make sure that people are having more babies, and it's always something a little bit fucking weird. A government-backed dating organisation paying women to move to the bucolic scenes of rural Japan. It's like, nah, none of that's going to work. Give them more money and they'll be happier.
Why do you think Japanese people live so long, though? What is the secret, Pete? What have you, from your rigorous studies over the last decade?
I was watching a little baby. That sounds bad. I was hanging out with a little baby who's a relative of mine, and she was kind of like, I think they call it like the Asian kneel or something, where you kind of basically go down on your. I don't know how to really explain it, but like you're sort of like it's like a crouch, like an Asian crouch. I think they call
Caesar.
Right, yeah. So like, right, it's just a kneel, but you're kind of floating. Like you got your feet planted on the ground, and you just basically stay on your knees for. Because I watched a couple of Japanese car mechanics on YouTube, and like they're on their knees the whole half an hour video, and people have just stopped watching a man changing a brake disc at one point. He's just going, this guy's been kneeling for half an hour that we know of. How is he doing this? And I played football last night, and I think my ankles fused together right now, and it's just I don't know how. I'm approaching, and indeed am in middle age, and good God, like I cannot handle even thinking about kneeling. So I think it's just basically mobility and moving around, and I don't know, just calisthenics. I don't know. It can't just all be diet. It can't, because as soon as your body starts to break down in the joints and stuff. I do have early onset arthritis. There's a lot of that in my family, presumably. But like, you do sort of go like it's all about the joints and the muscles and the mobility, isn't it? Really.
I mean, from what I can gather in the 12 years I've lived here, I think it's to do with calorific intake. Like, there's a lot of studies in recent times that the less calories you take in, almost fasting to some extent, the better it is for your body, right? Mortality rates are better, and so I think. People here don't overeat so much. Obesity rates are very low. And I think that's to do with it. I think it's more to do with the diet. And also it's quite a fish-heavy diet. They don't eat too much meat. People don't pig out on crap like we do in the West. Don't sit there with a bag of crisps all day. So I think it is mostly to do with that. Mostly to do with diet, and a pretty good diet at that, in Japan. So I suspect that's why. But it's also a big problem for Japan, because as we all know, the birth rate is pretty non-existent here, and now people are living until 110 onwards. So it's only going to be a bigger burden for the nation. There was a really good film. It was called like Plan something. What's it called? Plan 76 or something. It's about this. Basically, it's a film where the Japanese government decides that they're going to pay people to be euthanized. So, like, if I decide to die, I'm 80 or whatever, and I do the plan, I'm pretty sure it's called Plan 75 or 76. If I do it, then I die, I get euthanized, and my family gets given some money. The money that would have been like a burden on the state had I lived a bit longer. And it's a pretty moving film. I recommend it. It kind of dives into the issue in a very realistic and very gritty way. It feels almost like a documentary of sorts, right? The way it covers the topic. It's very like realistic and kind of eerie and unsettling.
Be a real pick up the gun moment for my parents, because they, from my earliest memory, they were saying, if I get to a stage where I can't move around and I'm 75, you got to end it. You got to kill me.
Oh my
you got to kill me. I'm going, all right then, Mum and Dad. Come on then. I need a new extension. Come on. Chop, chop.
Oh, man. That's unsettling. But no, sorry, the film's called Plan 75. Just looked it up.
Oh, yeah.
And the plot, it says, in a dystopian alternate reality, the Japanese government creates a program called Plan 75 that offers free euthanasia services to all Japanese citizens 75 and older in order to deal with its rapidly aging population. So some fun viewing there, fun for the family. Sit down with the kids and watch some 75-year-old Japanese women get euthanized in 4K. But yeah, seriously, it tackles the subject pretty well. But I do feel like I've not done a very good job learning or adopting the Japanese diet in my time here. I stood on the scales the other day, and it tells a very unsettling story. As unsettling as the plot of Plan 75. I'm like now 90 kilograms or something, and I need to do something about this. I'm not going to euthanize myself, but I'm
with modern technology, it would be interesting to get like do you know how Silicon Valley solve all of our problems and their new utopian skills
for the benefit of mankind, complete altruism.
Why don't I go to some venture capitalists and go, look, I've got this idea for this new scales, right? And instead of weight when you stand on the weighing scales, it just gives you the date in which you're going to die. And so you've got the choice that day to either eat fried chicken or have some delicious wrapped rice ball. And I think people would make more grown-up decisions, I think, personally.
Have you seen that guy? Speaking of Silicon Valley, have you seen that bloke Brian Johnson, who is I think he was like a venture capitalist, and he piled all his money into finding ways to live forever. And he has like blood transfusions, and he eats children, or maybe doesn't eat children. But
smash it. Doesn't he smash like? Doesn't he make his penis vibrate at night so he can have harder erections? He basically has the erections. He has like nighttime. He's obsessed with nighttime erections, and I think he blasts his testicles with radiation or something to make him have stronger nighttime erections. I mean, he looks like shit. He looks like he has a terrible time with his life. He's just walking around his empty, fucking godless apartment with like nobody around. He going, I only drink alcohol when friends come round. I will have a glass. I will have one glass of wine. He looks like he's trapped himself in his own little weird tower. It's like something out of a modern kind of biblical story. The man who wanted to live forever has terrible life, not worth living.
He takes 111 pills a day, every day.
Right. That's just food,
pills.
isn't it? That's it. Just don't worry about eating them. If you've eaten all those pills, you've eaten those like every bit of plasticky kind of like shellac that you're eating with every like little capsule outer layer. That's just food, isn't it? Now at this point,
ridiculous.
Ugh.
I mean, like, yeah,
shits are disgusting.
It's kind of cool, but also quite sinister, isn't it? This idea of like the richest in society finding these breakthrough ways to stay alive indefinitely, like a Fallout New Vegas.
He'll slip down the stairs in his big concrete apartment. He'll die. He'll die falling down the stairs. They always do. It's always a ha-ha. The man who invented jogging died of a heart attack. Ha-ha. It's validated my fried chicken obsession.
Such bitterness. The Schadenfreude of Pete Dawson. I mean, I don't know what I think. I also agree with you that he does look a bit crap in the photos. He's like, he has the face of a 46-year-old man, but he doesn't. He looks like, he's fallen out of a ditch.
He looks like Data from Star Trek.
Yeah. I think he looks
Julian
worse.
Lennon.
I think his regime, his regimen.
Very waxy man.
He doesn't look good. So I don't know what he's doing. Just fucking go to Okinawa, you daft bastard, and learn how to eat some fish, honestly.
Fucking chill out, yeah?
It's not going to work. I don't think pumping himself with all these chemicals to live forever is going to work. Just eat some salmon.
But you know, like how Hollywood stars, everyone sort of goes, oh, these guys look so young. How are they staying so young? Because they got a bit of fucking money. The difference between looking good and looking poor is just money, isn't it? But this guy is investing way too much money in the wrong places. Get yourself a little cheeky nip and tuck. Get yourself some, like a normal haircut. Stop looking so waxy. Just put a bit of makeup on, and you look like $1 million. Do you think if I could, like Cyndi Lauper was singing on stage at Glastonbury this year? She looks incredible. She's clearly had a bit of work done. It's been good work. It's been limited work, and she's got a load of makeup on. Fantastic. Just go the Cyndi Lauper route. Go the Debbie Harry route, for crying out loud.
But doesn't he? So he might look a bit rough, but he has the underneath the bonnet, so to speak. He has the body of a fucking 28-year-old guy. Something like that. His blood.
And nobody wants to fuck him because he's weird. So well done, you.
God, I hope he doesn't listen to this podcast. That's one less listener.
It's a waste of time. He's probably in his fucking hypo oxygen chamber, jerking his bean. I don't know.
He's certainly not having Coolish, is he? He's certainly not having Coolish.
He's not. More on that next.
Oh dear. Back into the fax machine. We'll be back in just a moment, guys. We'll stories, comments and questions over in the fax machine.
Wow.
And we're back with the fax machine. What do we got this week from our listeners, Mr. Dawson? Hopefully none from Brian Johnson, now that we've just lost him as a listener. Oh, dear.
Brian Johnson. It's such a robot name. Hello, I am Brian Johnson, not the robot. Hello, Chris.
You're just bitter that he's going to live longer than you. He's going to be around. Yeah. 20
but he will
years.
slip. The day after I die, he'll slip down the stairs and he'll be one day older than me. Hello, Chris and Pete. Whilst on my journey to Meguro, I stumbled upon a gacha machine in front of the bike parking of the Don Quixote Naka Meguro. I have a real problem with Naka Meguro story. Meguro. It was full of Coolish keyrings and knickknacks. It reminded me of Pete's love for Coolish, and I wonder if he'd ever seen these items before. Perhaps you could enlist Chris to buy some for you. Thank you for the wisdom from Japan over the years. It inspired me to visit Caden from the UK. There are so many So Coolish this year has kind of like broken out. They've started doing like tie-ins with like noodle companies. So people are making like noodle recipes with the creamy taste of Coolish, which kind of works. But I imagine it's also chemically gopping, as you would say. And yeah, there's loads of Coolish products kicking around at the moment. So yeah, there's a lot of people sending me some of the different flavours. Yeah,
hit the mainstream.
It has hit the mainstream. Delicious.
I'd love to see that as a documentary. Move over, Brian Johnson. There is a man called Pete Donaldson. Every morning he has an IV drip of Coolish ice cream. He has the body of a fucking elephant.
I haven't seen my nipples in years, but I'm committed to the Coolish bit. I'm committed to my Coolish lifestyle. Oh dear, vomit up white foam.
I am not going down to the Doggy Horte Nakameguro store to buy Coolish fucking keyrings for anyone.
Come on.
Got question from Alex who says, hello Chris and Pete. This year I've gotten involved in amateur sumo wrestling in the UK. Ooh. In fact, I just passed my assistant coaching qualification. Would you ever consider making any videos relating to sumo? Tokyo is a great place for it. Thank you very much for the content, Alex from London. That's pretty cool. That's very cool, Alex. I will say, sumo is one of those things that just doesn't really come up in much in everyday life in Japan. I still haven't seen it. The one time I was offered to go and actually watch it, unfortunately, I was busy. So yeah, I haven't really had much kind of relationship with sumo wrestling. Although if I keep on going the way I am, fucking 90 kilograms, then I'll be a sumo wrestler before the year's out. Pretty cool, though. I mean, do you want to do it? Is that your sort of thing? You love sumo wrestling, don't you, Pete?
Yeah, I do. They're my favourite. Do you remember when Tokyo Creative used to work from a big sumo wrestler's house and the doors were wider than normal doors?
I do remember that.
That's the exciting thing about sumo wrestling house. But I would. Why aren't there really small sumo wrestlers who can run through the sumo wrestler's legs and kick him in the back? Is that not a thing you can do?
Ninja wrestling.
This guy's kind of like in the early noughties, there was a footballer who could, for Stoke, who could throw the ball further than anyone. And Rory Delap, his name was, if you're unfamiliar. And he basically unlocked a new part of football, if that makes sense. Because, like on the touchline, when the ball goes out of play, you throw the ball in.
Right,
but
yeah.
Normally people just do a short throw. This guy could throw it harder than and longer than any person could kick.
All the way down the pitch.
And so it kind of revolutionised football. I mean, it's awful to watch. Stoke were a terrible team, but they scored loads of goals like that, and it's never really been repeated because it was a very unique throw. He was a javelin thrower as a younger man, but this could be my way of getting incredibly Japanese famous, only Japanese famous, because no one seems to be as interested about sumo wrestling halfway around the world. Just run through the legs, kick in the back. I've won sumo. Thank you.
Job done. There you go.
Here's my big house. And you know what? You don't even need to build the big wide doors. I'll have normal doors. It's absolutely fine.
Isn't that wild? You're so big, you have to have the doors refitted and walls knocked down.
Yeah.
My lord.
They're not going to live longer than that, man.
Yeah.
They're not going to live to 100, the old sumo wrestlers.
Wow. We got a question from Michelle and Andy, who says, hello, Chris and Pete. My wife and I are planning a road trip around Hokkaido in October of next year, and we'll rent a car for 6 to 8 days to visit the Easter Island Heads, the Abashiri prison, and several other scenic spots. I love that. Not anywhere of real culture. An Easter Island rip-off head in a cemetery.
There's a lot of Japanese features that are very much ripped off of anywhere else. The Tokyo Tower, for example.
I don't know.
No, the East Island Heads of Hokkaido. I'm gonna have a look.
There's a cemetery on the outskirts of Sapporo. And they wanted to make the best cemetery, the Ferrari of cemeteries. And so they basically built Stonehenge to scale, and they built the Easter Island Heads to scale. And they're a little bit tacky, but there is one cool thing there. They've got this massive Daibutsu kind of statue in what looks like a postmodern missile silo. And it's so cool. Okay. I went there with American Pete years ago on our little odyssey across Hokkaido, and really quite cool. Like, go for the Buddha, don't go for the East Island Heads. Anyway, Michelle continues, though Wakanai... Andy and Michelle. Though Wakanai is a fixed stop on our journey, is Cape Nosapu worth a trip? Are there any places that you would highly recommend? Thank you for your good work and bringing happiness to us all. All the best, guys. Michelle and Andy from Austria. If I had to choose between going to Cape Nosapu or Wakanai, so Cape Nosapu is the most eastern point on sort of Japanese mainland or the Japanese islands. There is one other place, some obscure island in the Pacific that you actually can't go to, unfortunately. That's technically Japan's most eastern point. But Cape Nosapu is nice. And I think it's probably better than going to Wakanai because Wakanai has fuck all to do. And it's a long journey for nothing. There's much better places. I don't even know that I would recommend Cape Nosapu. What I would recommend is going to the islands, the lake, what was it called? Lake Akan or something. We went there on Journey Across Japan, Frozen Frontiers, and yeah, it's a really nice lake. You can do lots of things there. Go there instead. And Abashiri Prison is quite nice as well. Maybe go there, but don't go the most northern point. Don't go the most eastern point, as I found expending incredible resources. It's not a journey worth making. Keep the stories, questions, comments coming in to abroadjapanpodcast@gmail.com or right away down in the comments here on YouTube. But for now, guys, have yourself a good one, and we'll see you right back here to do it all over again on the Abroad Japan podcast later in the week. And apologies again to Brian Johnson for Pete Dawson's crass remarks.
Grow up. Grow up and have a beer. Shut up.
I'll never grow up.
Stop telling us what to do.